Hello there, you're watching Candid Cruises, and today I'm joined by Bridget McGrouther, travel writer, and Johanna Grove, destinations expert or specialist. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Now, I'd just like to kick off by saying we're obviously all devotees or love cruising. What was your first cruise and what was it that made you fall in love? Bridget.
Well, I was lucky enough to be working on an upmarket magazine in Edinburgh at the time, and I was writing travel, and I was invited to join the Hebridean Princess.
Hebridean Princess was your first cruise?
Absolutely. Start at the top. I thought if it's fit for the Queen, then it must be fit for me.
This is the Queen's favourite ship.
Yeah. And it happened to coincide with my 40th birthday. So my husband and I were both able to join the ship, and of course, living in Scotland, she sails from Oban, so it, very close to us. We could just join the ship in Oban, and it was a new cruise. Actually, it was one that involved walking, so it was called Footloose over the Minch. So you were able to get off and explore these islands that are really remote and need a ship to get to, and you were able to go for these fantastic walks, and then the ship would pick you up, or a tender, or it was perfect.
Lovely.
And we got the best autumn weather. We had a week in September. The weather was absolutely beautiful, and of course all the colours, and seeing Scotland like that was just fantastic. So of course I was hooked. I hadn't been cruising before then, and I was obviously.
You bet.
And you haven't stopped cruising since.
Yeah, and you managed to get good weather, no rain and no midges, because in September they'd have been gone.
I know.
Wow.
Everything at once in Scotland. So I saw Scotland through new eyes. It was great.
Oh, and have you been on the Hebridean Princess?
I haven't, no.
She's beautiful. It's the lounge is like a cosy sitting room, isn't it? In an upmarket.
There are only about 50 passengers.
Totally.
Fabulous.
And the food is, well, the food on most cruises is wonderful. It's sensational.
Yeah. I think I put on about a stone.
I think that's standard on any cruise though, isn't it? Exactly. I don't know why they have a gym on board. We all take our trainers, but how often do you actually go and open the door?
Yeah, exactly.
You turn up with the best intentions, don't you?
Yes,
yeah. Never make it.
Jo, what was your first cruise?
My first cruise, I was about 15 when I went on my first cruise.
Really?
And we went on a family holiday on the QE2, like a 3-day, one of these taster cruises. And I just remember being 15 to have a formal night where you got to wear a really posh dress, and I've got my hair done, and for a girly girl, being able to have a black tie evening, that was a big deal for me. And then several years later, I did one of these cruises to Egypt and Israel from Cyprus, where I was a bit older and had sort of got the travel bug and, wanted to get off and see all of these amazing destinations. And then my next cruise was when I started working on board a cruise ship and saw a completely different side again. But I think when you go on a cruise once and you get a bit of a taste of the fact that every day I can open the curtains and see a different view, I think you're hooked, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Funnily enough, my first cruise was the QE2, and I was 40 when I went on that, so a combo of both of you.
But cruise life begins at 40.
Cruise life begins at 40.
Or 15 in your case.
Well, it's an interesting one, because I still meet with a lot of friends and people I don't know, who I just meet, who say, why are you so hooked on cruises? And they don't even consider going on a cruise. I think they think it's for when you're much, much older, or they just don't look at a cruise holiday in the same way. Have you met this, and are you able to say to people, I went when I was 15? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so hard to try and educate people about what to expect on a cruise ship, because in a lot of the cases, how can you explain it? The service is out of this world. The setting is lavish. You get to go to all these amazing places. And I think for me, the best thing about cruising is the fact that you can try out all of these different destinations. And, a Caribbean cruise, for example, a lot of people say, well, once you've been to one Caribbean island, you've been to them all. That's so not the case. Everyone's got their own atmosphere and their own personality. And I think on a cruise, you can spend a day somewhere and think, now, yes, I would spend a lot of money to come back here for 2 weeks. And other places you go to and you think, I'm so glad I haven't come on a 2-week holiday because this isn't for me. And I think it's the perfect opportunity to have a look around, see what you like and what you don't like, and you've ticked off several destinations from your bucket list along the way anyway.
I think that's such a clever point. I would never have looked, for instance, at Tallinn had I not gone on a Baltic cruise. And then I said to my husband, to Patrick, I want to come back here for a long weekend. I love this place. You know, so you do get a window, don't you, an opportunity to taste somewhere and to know whether you want to make a return trip for longer or that's it. You're happy not to.
And that's a great example, actually, Tallinn, because I've done a lot of Baltic cruises and so many people come on and say, never even heard of it. Where is it? You know, I'd never have thought to go to Estonia. And then, you know, you turn up and it's like somebody's opened a fairy book and you've just stepped in, or even the post office looks like a little pink castle. And so many people come back and say the best port of the whole cruise.
That old chemist shop as well. That's
absolutely,
fabulous.
Yeah. And it's always those places where, you know, you go ashore with low expectations because you don't know a great deal about it, and you come away thinking that's the most fabulous place on the whole cruise. And you know, how many people get the opportunity to see it? World cruising's the same. You know, it's the opportunity to go to these tiny Pacific islands that how many people from the UK would fly across the Pacific and you know, stop at American Samoa, but to come away and say, yeah, I've been there. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Have any destinations surprised you and taken your breath away, Bridget?
Well, Tallinn is one of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are so many. I was lucky enough to go to Spitsbergen on one cruise.
Fabulous.
And that was amazing. It was in the summer, so it was the white night, so
lovely.
It hardly ever got dark, and you could be on deck and just watch the scenery slip by, and you would be looking at your watch thinking, it's 11 o'clock at night.
But because it doesn't get dark, you don't feel tired, do you? It's amazing.
And we were lucky enough actually to see a polar bear on that occasion.
Wow.
So that was exciting because we happened to be back on the ship when the polar bear turned up. But some of the passengers were on shore.
Wow.
And the polar bear was swimming across. So we they had guards with them and they had to set the flare off just to scare the polar bear because he was getting a little bit close and people had to get
amazing.
back on. But it was absolutely, I mean, it was so beautiful and so lucky to see the wildlife like that, you know.
I remember going to see the Northern Lights and we never saw them at all when we actually disembarked from the ship and went staying up through the night. We actually saw them from the deck of the ship. You get a call out, you know, like you get sort of rates of alert, like I think it was 7 means you can, 4 means stay in bed, 5 means start thinking about getting dressed, 7 is get out
start running,
and the 9 is like, no, exactly.
Amazing.
And it was, we all dashed out and it was absolutely magical and so unexpected.
And Lapland is actually a destination that surprised me. And it's just like walking into Narnia because it's magical and like a fairy tale opening up, as you say, in the same in Tallinn. But the snow is just like snow you've never ever seen, and it's crystal. All through the air, and the light is amazing, and you can just do extraordinary things like dog sledding, snowmobiles, things you've never ever done in your life before.
Yeah, I've been to a few places, sort of Antarctica, but I've not actually been to Alaska. That's on my bucket list.
It's on mine too. I haven't been to Alaska. So.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to go together.
Absolutely. But I think the more places that you go to, the more you add on to the bottom of your list. Because you'll go to one place and think, somebody will say to you, oh, if you like this, you want to go here because you'll love that. Yes. And I think, you know, you start off with a list of top 10 places that you'd like to see. And by the time you visited those 10, you've got another 30 on your list because somebody has said to you on a cruise,
yes,
we went here, you want to try this?
Yeah, I'd love to go to the Galapagos Islands as well.
That's on my bucket list. That definitely. And actually, believe it or not, the Falkland Islands as well, because I long to see a whale. I long to see a whale breaching. I've seen dolphins, I've seen penguins. I've been so fortunate.
To the Dominican Republic.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, the best place I've been for that is Cabo San Lucas in Mexico.
Really?
Where you can literally see them as the ship is docked, even if you don't leave the ship at certain times of the year. I actually went out on a sightseeing, a whale spotting trip. And it was fantastic. The whales literally breaching out of the water.
Stay there. I'm going to come back to this after the break. We've got to go to the break, but I want to write it down and I want to hear more. I'm sure you do as well. Join us after the break. You're watching Candid Cruises. Hello, thanks so for joining us on Candid Cruises. I'm with Johanna Grove, or Jo, and Bridget McGrouther. And Jo was just telling us about Wales. So you went to Cabo San Lucas?
That's right, in Mexico. And it's a place I'd not been to before, but somebody said to me, great place for wildlife watching. I'm a huge nature freak anyway. And so I went out on a whale watching trip. And it's the most emotional thing, the most emotional experience I've ever seen. That that there were females that were rolling in the water and slapping their fins to attract the males, and the whales were literally whatever it takes. There were whales literally breaching out of the water and smashing onto the sea, and it was absolutely incredible to see these amazing creatures out in the wild where they're supposed to be. But by the time I'd come back to the ship, there were people who were sat having their lunch out on the back deck saying, we were watching exactly the same thing from here. Yeah. It was absolutely amazing.
And it was the same in the Dominican Republic.
And you've seen whales in the Dominican Republic?
We could see them from the shore, from the beach. I wondered why everybody was getting up and going. It was a certain time of year that they come to breed, and so they were breaching, and we wondered, why is everybody standing up and looking? And then we looked ourselves, and it was the whales. And then we went on an excursion, in the water, obviously to see the whales. And we got up quite close. I mean, they don't want you to be too close because obviously, they don't want to interfere with the breeding season. But we actually saw mothers and babies as well.
Fantastic.
And there were people just crying because it was so emotional.
Well, and these were on sort of ordinary cruise ships, not even expedition cruise ships.
No, absolutely.
No, but so many cruise ships, you actually, if you happen to be on deck, and there's sometimes Saga have had orca teams on board, and they will call and shout if they see a whale or dolphins. I mean, to see a pod of dolphins, there's nothing better than you're sitting in the restaurant and suddenly someone shouts dolphin, and then everybody gets up from
suddenly
the
ship
table,
lifts because they're
all over where.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the best things about being in a ship is actually to see the marine life.
Yes.
Seals as well, when you see them, and they're just they're curious. They want to come and see you too.
I did a Fred Olsen cruise in January of earlier this year, and it was wonderful because I went swimming with turtles.
Brilliant.
And a female turtle came up virtually under me, and I remember putting my hand on her, and it was it was like jelly, and just feeling so special. I mean, there are things you'll never ever forget.
And you can't describe that experience to somebody either, and anybody understand like how you felt when you did that. It's magical.
Getting back to cruising, anything not so good? Any downsides to cruising? If somebody was saying to you, be honest with me, I've never been cruising, I want to go as a holiday, but it's a risk for me because I always go to Spain or I always go to Portugal or Italy, I want to branch out. Is there any things you can think of that's not so good? Just out of interest?
Well, we touched...
This is Candid Cruises, ladies.
After you.
There's not a lot I can think about, but sometimes if you are on a table, so we've there's a clash of personalities or something, then that can be difficult.
Yeah.
That's a downside. But
Yeah.
I think your dining companions can actually make or break a cruise, can't it?
Yeah.
And I think I'm really sociable. I like to be on a big table and meet other people and, you know, find out about other people. But like you say, if you've got a table with other people who don't really have a great deal to say, it becomes hard work.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when you book a cruise, you get a choice over what sort of size table you want, don't you? But yeah, I have to say, for me, there's very little other than in some places you don't get enough time.
That's right.
Right.
You know, you can go to some of these amazing destinations
and it's only a morning.
Yeah, you don't quite get enough time there.
Yes.
And you know, there's so many places where you think, oh, we should have stayed overnight here because look at that amazing marina. You know, that's the only downside for me. That in some places
they're actually beginning to introduce that more
They
and
are,
more,
they
where
are.
you're staying overnight, and that means you can go in and see the nightlife.
Which is a place is very different. Somewhere like
Absolutely.
Ibiza doesn't even come alive until about sort of 11 or 12 in the late morning.
Yeah.
And at night, it's a totally different animal.
That's
and to
right,
miss that is a shame.
Definitely.
And so that's really quite a nice change in cruising. I think Azamara do that.
Yes, yeah, Azamara's As Amazing Evenings.
That's right, and you can see the resorts at night, Monte Carlo, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
You can go to the casino if you want to. Or
What about
whatever.
food on board? We've talked about dining companions. What about food on board? You said, I think it was you, Joe, saying it's impossible not to put on weight. I have to agree. I did write about, could you lose weight on a cruise? And I did an experiment and I did exercise a lot. And I came out at not putting any on, but I didn't lose any either. Because, you know, you get some of the best food you're ever going to taste.
Absolutely.
And
you
there's so much of it.
You go with the best intentions and then you sit down at the table and you think, oh, just have a salad tonight. And then they come round with the menu and they'll say well, just try this. If you don't like it, we'll bring you a salad. OK, well, I'll try it. And you know you're not going to send it back and ask for a salad. And then the dessert menu will come round and you'll say, no, I'm going to be good. Oh, well, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. And then you go to the gym and then you think, oh, well, that's a guilt-free glass of wine and chocolate cake I can have tonight. And I don't believe you can lose weight on a cruise ship.
It's very difficult. I mean, they do market in the menu now the lighter options for example.
Yes, they do.
So
they do.
You
so somebody's watching and thinking, oh, I really don't want to put on weight. What do you think, ladies, about drinks packages? Do you think, because I mean,
I think they're a very good idea.
Well, some cruises,
Absolutely.
Some cruises have the drinks in, you know, sort of all part and parcel of it, all in with the custard. But some offer a drinks package, and they are good, aren't they?
Well, if you
want to relax and have a
I think
cocktail,
they're a very good idea. You don't have to, you know, you can enjoy if you know you're going to enjoy a nice bottle of wine or cocktails. If you enjoy having a drink, then a drinks package can be economical, especially if you're with the family. Even if the children are having soft drinks all day long, if it's hot, whatever, then it just stops you thinking about, you know, the cost all the time.
I think at the beginning when you book your cruise you think, oh, do we want to spend extra for the drinks? But actually when you get on board and you see the prices of drinks on board, it makes so much sense to have a drinks package. Like you say, you haven't got to think about it. If you like a glass of wine with your dinner, you know you can just choose one.
I think Fred Olsen, for example, does a drinks package, and it's not a lot. I can't remember offhand, but it's something like £10 a day. And it was crazy because I can remember thinking that I think you had to pay for certain drinks, and I think you had to pay for sparkling water.
How bizarre!
I was thinking, this sparkling water is actually costing me more than a gin and tonic.
I'll stick to gin.
Absolutely. Very good. I think you do pay more for premium brands, but I mean, you know, sort of. You know, your good old regular brands are just fine. You're right about. I think it's a very good thing. I used to get very cross, and I still do get cross if you have to pay for water in your cabin at night. I think that should be a sort of. I'm sorry, I actually do think that should be a right that every passenger has bottled water.
Yeah, because in certain places, you know, it's really important. If you're in a hot country, you really have to drink a lot of water. And you don't want to be thinking,
Yes,
well,
or you want your children to drink a lot,
of
to
course.
be having lots
You
of
don't
water
want to
rather
be
than
seeing-
fizzy drinks.
That's it.
And you can't drink the water out of the tap. So
I think as well, a lot of cruises, the more you book and pay for up front, the cheaper it actually works out. It's the same with shore excursions.
Yes.
If you book them up front, they're generally cheaper than when you get on board.
Yes.
Same as the drinks. If you can afford to do it all at the beginning, then when you get on board, you haven't got to think about it again. It's all there and it's all provided for you.
And if you're new to cruising and find that you actually do love it, it's something you want to do again, it's a very good idea. There's always a future cruises desk, isn't there?
Yes.
So you can always go, and then you can get real discounts, on-board spend, maybe gratuities thrown in, maybe a drinks package.
Yeah, definitely.
Always good to do. Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, both of you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Some really good stories, and I now know that I've got to go to Mexico to look for whales and whale watching, and also the Dominican Republic as well. And fantastic, as you say, that you can actually just even see it from the deck of the ship rather than having to actually go on an excursion. But there are excursions available.
Absolutely. I think, to be honest, that's the best thing, like you said about being on a ship. If you're just sitting lazing on the open deck, most of the ships will make an announcement saying, if you're out on the open decks, over on the port side is a pod of dolphins, and it gives you the opportunity to see all of this nature in the raw.
Yes.
While you're sat there reading a book with a cocktail in your hand. Fantastic.
Yeah, really good point. A bit like when I went and saw the Northern Lights, that's what they did
absolutely.
then. Yeah. And then that's another advantage. You all sort of feel like a big family, don't you, on board?
Definitely.
Which is really, really good.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm sniffing away. I'm brewing a terrible cold here. I do apologise. And to you viewers at home, thank you for joining us. You've been watching Candid Cruisers. See you next time.